Hello everybody and welcome on my journey to watch 500 films in 1 year. The next 4 films I watched were all of the movies in the Scream franchise. Scream is about a peaceful town in California which gets turned upside down when a masked killer starts to haunt its streets. Sydney Prescott, a teenage girl who becomes the prime target of the killer, must work with a local tabloid news reporter and the town's deputy sheriff to try to figure out who the killer is and if there's a link to the person who murdered her mother the year before. Scream 2 is set 2 years after the first series of murders and sees a new psychopath taking on the Ghostface mantle. Scream 3 is about another murder spree, this time targeted towards the original Woodsboro survivors and those associated with the movie inside a movie, Stab 3. Scream 4 sees Sydney Prescott, now the author of a self-help book, returning home to Woodsboro on the last stop of her book tour. There she reconnects with the old friends and family members that she has not seen for a long time, but unfortunately her reappearance also brings about the return of Ghostface. It's a rare feat for every movie in a franchise to be good, but Wes Craven, Erin Kruger and Kevin Williamson managed it with the Scream franchise. Not only was it great to see a revival of good old-fashioned slasher movies, but the horror subgenre was brought bang up to date with postmodern twists and other clever devices, making all of the movies very enjoyable to watch. The first movie in a franchise is quite often the best, and Scream is my favourite out of the 4 films. The opening scenes were legendary, and despite the fact that there is little character development, all of the actors did a splendid job of providing memorable performances. I loved the way that everyone was a suspect, and the big reveal at the end was fantastic. I remember being really surprised the first time I watched the film. Other great touches were brilliant horror movie cameos and some fun special effects. All in all, the movie was enjoyable, tense and inventive. Scream 2 had a similar structure to its predecessor, but was unique in the sense that it made references to popular culture, an example of which was Friends, which is obviously the show which made Courtney Cox famous, and explored the subject of cinema violence as a theme. I loved the inclusion of David Warner in a small role, as he's a notorious baddie in cinema, and I found the storyline to be both entertaining and brilliantly written. Scream 3 saw Courtney Cox sporting another new hairstyle, and managed to keep the superlative continuity established in the first 2 movies nicely in place. I liked the way Sydney's psychological state was called into question, and found the visions of her mother to be extremely haunting. The plot was again peppered with convincing scenes of carnage, including a really surprising death scene, which I did not see coming the first time I watched the movie. The first few scenes of Scream 4 were superb, and I would say this was the goriest Scream film of all. Sadly, this was the last film that Wes Craven directed before he passed away, so it would be interesting to see who, if anyone, is brought on board to direct Scream 5, if plans for that come to fruition. All of the films in the Scream franchise are quite long for horror movies, but it was impossible to notice this due to the fast-paced action and intricate plots, inviting the audience to play along and decide who the masked killer is in each story. I'm torn as to whether I watch the TV series, which is currently being shown on Netflix, as I don't want to taint my feelings about the movies. Given this, I most definitely give all of them a big thumbs up. Please join me for my next review, where I'll be talking about The Black Coat's Daughter, also known as February, written and directed by Oz Perkins. Thanks for taking the time to listen, and I hope to hear from you soon.